I went into a court date in Boston at Roxbury District Court one day, and this kindly old grandfather-like judge shows me a calendar and said, "You'll be back here in 10 days. Either you come back and we'll send you right to a state or a county correctional facility, or you can join the military." And I'm going like, join the military? I don't want to join the military. I didn't have any interest in joining the military. But he said, that's your choices. If you decide not to come back, we'll just put out an arrest warrant for you. And that wasn't attractive either. So I said, okay, to the military thing. And I started looking at all the recruiters. First, I thought, well, maybe I can be a Green Beret. Sorry, you got to sign up for 4 or 5 years for a Green Beret. And with the Navy, the Air Force, the Coast Guard, everything's a minimum of 4 years. Even the Marine Corps and Army, for the most part, were 4 years too. But I happened to walk by a Marine Corps recruiting office. I had never thought of going to see them. And I told him what I wanted. I wanted to get in and out as quick as I could. And he says, well, we have a program. You have to do 2 years active duty. And then after that, you have like 4 years inactive. You don't have to go to any meetings, anything like that. And I says, well, that sounds like it's right up my alley.
When you actually then entered the Marine Corps, had you made the connection in your mind? Um, August 1966, things are certainly brewing in Southeast Asia. The war's underway for sure. Had you made the connection in your mind? I'm going into the Marine Corps. There's a major conflict in Southeast Asia. Probably these two facts will collide.
Yes and yes and no. Um, I looked back at the things I read in the newspaper about, I'd call them relatively minor engagements. And I knew that there was a chance that I'd go to Vietnam, but I wasn't like, it was an adventure. It wasn't like I was all that worried about it. I had no concept of the situation there. I had no concept of how bad it was.
Well, then what was the first thing that you experienced in Vietnam that drove home the point to you that you had arrived in a war zone?
Well, I got to Da Nang and had to stay in Da Nang for a couple days doing paperwork and stuff. And they had to assign me. They assigned me down to Chu Lai, down to the 5th Marines, 1st Battalion, 5th Marines. I stayed there for a couple days doing paperwork. Then they put not a lot of us, maybe six guys in a truck, and they went to a place called Tam Key, which was just north or northwest. I can't be sure right now of Chu Lai. And they said, well, you'll stay here at Tam Key for the night, and then in the morning we'll take you out where you're going. That night, I don't know, 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, I'm not really sure. Somebody came running into the tent and said, we need stretcher bearers now down the medevac pad. So we threw on some clothes, and there's only two of us in the tent, and ran down to the medevac pad and started humping guys off the helicopters. The guy I was carrying, there's 4 guys on a stretcher. His battle dressing shifted, and he squirted some blood right on the front of my utility shirt. And I'm just about to faint. I'm just about to faint. But then they got everybody off, and we went back to the tent. I don't believe I slept. Next morning, we had a little slop for breakfast, and went down to the helicopter pad, and they stuck us on this. One thing, back when we dropped the guys in the medevac hospital, we started to walk out, and I saw a cartridge belt and a pistol on the floor. And I said to the guy with me, I said, I'm going to grab that. And he says, you better not. You're going to get in a whole lot of trouble, right? And I says, well, we'll see. And I grabbed it and I shoved it right in my backpack without I took it off and just left the holster and took the cartridge belt and just tossed that aside like they do when they're treating casualties. They just cut everything off and toss it to the side. So we got on the plane, we got on the helicopter, and they were old 34 helicopters, H-34s. The Marine Corps was using them in Korea. And you see, even at that time, the Army was driving around all these UEs and gunships and everything. And we're going around in these old clunkers left over from Korea that you can fit two pilots up front, you get a crew chief, and you can fit maybe 3 other guys in there. Okay. So we take off. We're going to a place called Hill 51. It turns out that the Marines were supposed to set up a combat base there. It was out in the middle of the Quezon Valley. So we get out there and we're way high, and we start coming down in these real tight circles. And I was afraid. I almost fell out of the helicopter. I could hardly hold on with my backpack and everything like that. I thought I was going right out the door, but I didn't. And we got located down. The chopper landed, and the crew chief said, "Yeah, we did it like that because there was quite a bit of sniper fire." And I says, "Okay." So we walk up the hill a little bit. It was on Hill 51, so 51 meters. So it was like 150 feet high. Not a very commanding position. But we got up near the top, and there's about maybe 10 or 12 guys sitting around in a like a circle, kind of a semicircle. And I looked at them, and they got battle dressings on, and some guys got open wounds. I'm going, wow. It turns out that the company that got hit before that we stretcher buried for was Delta 15, the same company I was going to.
Wow.
So, and just looking at these guys, they were like, it was amazing. Then they had a big debate about where they were going to stick us in, what squad, what fire team they were going to stick us in. And there was only a couple of us. So they figured it out, and they sent us with a runner up to the different places, to the different squads. And I just remember the guys who were, I know they were staff sergeants and stuff who were, when I met down the bottom of the hill, but as you got up further, they were more the lower ranking and stuff. And they were the same thing. They were bandaged up, and they were cleaning weapons. They were eating. They were,
And
sleep.
how long had you been in country by this time? A few
How
days?
long what?
How long had you been in country by this time?
Oh, less than a week. Less than a week.
So after seeing these things, after less than a week in South Vietnam, I Corps, do you recall the thought passing through your head, maybe I should have gone with the jail option?
What was passing through my head was, can I swim all the way to California? And I kind of ruled that out. And I said, well, there's 3 ways. One, you're going to go back in a aluminum box. 2, you're going to go back all shot up and messed up. Or 3, you're going to make it your 13 months and you're home free. Right away, as soon as I said that, I just shook my head, and I said, get out of here, spend 13 months in this place. You got to be kidding me. You got to be kidding me.
What job had you been trained to do? Let's let's put you back on the plane. On the you're descending into Da Nang. So
Mhm.
a couple questions about that. What do you remember about your state of mind? You said, early, before you know anything, you're thinking of Vietnam as an adventure. Is that still what you're thinking as that plane is descending to land in Da Nang? This is an adventure. How would you describe your mindset at that time?
Still, in a way, an adventure because I hadn't, because all this stuff like at Tam Key and Chu Lai and stuff that came after.
All right.
That came after we flew in. No, I didn't have any particular worries, you know,
And
at that time.
as you were flying in, suppose the Marine next to you says, "So what are you going to be doing? What's your job? What had you been trained to do? What did you anticipate doing once you got into Vietnam?"
My military occupational specialty was 0311 rifleman.
Okay. So
So
you
strictly a ground pounder,
yeah.
strictly a rifleman in a line rifle company.
So you knew going in you're going to be in the mix.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I knew going in that I was going to be in a rifle company. I didn't know the gravity of the situation. I didn't know how bad it was that fast. From Tam Key flying into Hill 51, that gave me a good insight later on about what I was getting myself into. But then it's too late. Can't do anything.
What was your first experience of combat?
First experience with combat was, well, we did a lot of when we got to 51. The Delta Company had just got there the day before. And what they didn't have is they didn't have wire, they didn't have sandbags, they didn't have claymore mines, they hardly had anything. All we had was fighting holes, which are like waist deep or a little deeper, two-man holes. The only protection. And I remember the guys who had been there a while already said, "Boy, if we get hit, we are in trouble." Because we had no wire, we had no defenses. And Hill 51 was out in the middle of a huge, humongous rice paddy. And it was a little bump sticking up out in the middle with rice on all these, every other side. First actual combat was went out on a couple. We went mainly close, very close to the hill, especially because we didn't have any wire or any of that kind of stuff. So we stayed pretty close to the our perimeter. And then as we started to build up the base with some wire and more claymores and stuff, we started venturing out a little further. The mainly I think
Hmm.
squad size patrols. So that's 12 guys or something like that, depending on if you're bringing an extra machine gun with you or whatever. We'd go out and we'd take sniper fire all the time, but and we had a couple mad minutes where you just go and you'd think maybe somebody's hiding up here, so we're going to blow an ambush. So we just everybody will unload like a magazine or two of from their M16.
Right.
Uh, and then on Union One was the first actual big operation we went off on.
So the your first combat experience then was it coming under sniper fire? Was it a brief firefight? Was it an ambush?
No, I didn't hit the real. We had an ambush on Union, which we fired back. We got a couple wounded, killed a couple, but the first real operation where we got in a real serious fight was Union 2 and then Swift.
And in this case, you're up against the NVA.
Strictly NVA. We didn't see many VC at all.
Walk us through what you remember of Union 2.
Union 2, Union 1 had been a very successful operation in the terms of First Marines. First Marines, I think, got over 800 NVA KIA, something like that. And so what they decided they were going to do was, on the heels, I think Union started mid-April and it ended mid-May. And we
67.
1-5 went back to Hill 51, and we were only there a few days. And then they said they wanted to run another operation. They wanted to run it in like the same general area. We ran into so much contact prior to that they wanted to see how their luck held this time, if they'd run into NVA again. So they passed word down that they were going to stop. They were going to cut off Union 2 because we hadn't had much contact at all. It wasn't at all like Union where they had so much contact. So they were going to just redo Union 2, but when nothing happened, much happened, they said they were going to just shut it down and wait for another day. We had a bunch of ARVN, Army of Republic of Vietnam, with us. And as soon as they heard that we might be pulling out, they just they just took off. They didn't even tell anybody. They were just gone, right? And even some of the Marine units they had sent back to wherever their fire bases were, or where they were hanging out before, or in a new location. So we ended up with two Marine rifle companies. There are two Marine rifle companies. This is right at the very end of May, and the commanding officer of I think the commanding officer of 1-5 was taken over. We had a company from 2-5 with us, Fox 2-5 was with us. So there's only two Marine rifle companies there now. And what they wanted us to do was to cross this humongous rice paddy. And it was one of those, it was kind of in a U-shaped, like a horseshoe, U-shaped position. And they thought there was NVA in this village. So they wanted to go and investigate this village with two rifle companies. And a lot of the guys were already going like, this doesn't feel really right, because we had to go across maybe how many 1,000 meters.
Yeah.
Sounds like a bit much, but it was a lot longer than a football field. So we got ready to go on June 2. We were going to go in, and Fox was on our side, off to our flank by about maybe close to a mile. So they were still pretty distant too. But we were both going to hit it like that. But they wanted us to go right up the high diddle, right up the middle. And nobody liked it, but there was nothing we could do about it. And the night before, on the 1st, there was a lot of signs, a lot of footprints, a lot of cartridge stuff, spent cartridges and stuff right along the where we were. We're hunkered down for the night for for June 1st, but then first thing in the morning on the 2nd, we were going to move out in the same Fox 25 was going to move out at the same time.
Now this stuff that was laying around, was this NVA stuff?
Yeah.
Oh, so okay, so you knew the NVA had been there.
Sometimes we'd even find like AK-47s on a rock or something, like they forget their rifle or something, which is kind of bizarro. But we found that not infrequently.
Wow.
So we started off. We had three platoons. I was in the first platoon going across, then the second platoon, and then the third platoon. Our company commander, who was only a first lieutenant, McInturf, he left the third platoon back in a tree line in case we got hit. If we got hit hard, they'd have a whole platoon back there to start, laying on the heat.
Yeah.
So we got about 2/3 across, and we got hit from both sides. We had to go right to dirt. We couldn't. You couldn't even shoot. You couldn't even shoot. You're supposed to have fire superiority, but you can't. Two guys in my fire team were KIA. The other guy was wounded. I got wounded. And they just had us pinned down. Then they try to rush us. They charged us a couple times. We beat that back, but then like the third time they overran us, and it was entrenching tools.
You mean hand-to-hand combat?
Yeah, entrenching tools. I never thought. Thank God then that I had my 45, because I had it loaded. I had it around in the chamber, and it had a clip right where I can get easy access to it. That saved my weenie for sure.
That's the pistol you picked up that had been by the wounded guy.
In TMK, yeah, in TMK, yeah. But
Um,
I kept it in plastic.
so you had that 45 with you, and you were wounded at this time?
Well, let me see the best way to tell this. We were pinned down. We couldn't do much. The two guys in my team, we figured we were done. Pretty much we figured we were done. They had us cold, and two of my guys they were saying they're gonna get some. I'm saying, don't even think about sticking your head up. Don't even think about it. And they both did. And they both got headshot. The other guy in my team was a guy who they brought in to fill the ranks from the post office, and I don't know where, but he was there. He got shot in the back a couple times, but he could still function well. So I just told the guys who could hear me and stuff, just stay down, because you could start to hear these guys coming across going, Marine, you die. Marine, you die. And I'm just going, oh man, But I figured these guys were charging us and they were coming across, and they obviously had good snipers. So I figured the best way to do it was just to wait until I got so close that their guys coming across would shield us when we finally got up and were able to, fire back.
What do you mean by that? When their guys would
We were
shield?
charging. They were coming after us to go even more hand to hand, and they originally started in the tree line, then they start moving across, and their other guys are moving. Their snipers are back in the U-shaped ambush, and their snipers are kind of back there too. So as they're assaulting us, the guys who are coming out of the tree line are getting like taller and taller, and they're blocking the aim
of the
of the
sniper.
guys who were trying to snipe us from the tree line. Weird. And then we heard they really unloaded on Fox too. You could hear that. That was loud. They really took a bad hit.
What did you hear?
Unbelievable amount of gunfire, machine guns, some rockets, RPGs. But I finally, you could really hear these NVA. They were really close to my position, and they're still doing the Marine, you're going to die. And I'm just getting so sick of listening to that. I had my 45 out, um, and I'm just ready to stand up. And a grenade, an American grenade, pops over the dike and explodes. And it was so close to me. It it completely. I had my M16 here too. It completely blew that up, blew that into a few pieces. Um, I got damage to my teeth, my lip, my tongue got splits on my teeth was a problem. Um, and then I got my 45 and I got up in the NVA were like very close, 15 feet, 20 feet. But with a 45, 45, they say you use two hands, but if you're that close to hold your 45, you only need one hand. How can you miss it? It's such a short range. I fired all my rounds. Then I felt something tugging on my back, like trying to pull me. And I yelled to I don't even remember the guy's name, the mailman who was shot. And I said, get these whatever off me. And he says, they're so close. I says, I don't care. Shoot them off me. And he did without shooting me, which was like a miracle.
What, these were NVA guys behind you?
Yeah, yeah. And I thought they were trying to take me for as a prisoner. I thought that what they were trying to do because they were so close and they could have killed me right there, but they didn't.
Did you hit any of the NVA with your pistol?
Yeah, about all of them. They're only like 15 feet away.
Okay.
Just do body shots, the fattest part. So then I got up, reloaded, and started firing again. And I had my K-bar, no, my brother had sent me a Gerber knife. Do you know Gerber knives?
Mm.
He sent me a Gerber knife about 7 inches long. I had that in my left hand, and I had my pistol in my right. And I took a bullet right through the upper part of my. It didn't go right through my palm, but it went up here towards the meat of my hand, and that knocked me down and around. And it just became a overwhelming. Became overwhelming. And then I took something right up here on the bridge of my nose. I still have the indentation. It could have been I don't know if a bullet could go sideways, shrapnel. It wasn't going this way, that's for sure. I wouldn't be here, talking to you. But then I was out of it. I was face down in the patio. I couldn't move. And then after a while, I don't know how long, but this guy, the mailman guy, came over and he helped me out. He bandaged me up a little bit. but I wasn't really that. I wasn't really that bad. Um, and the gunnery sergeant back in the back with the third platoon is yelling, "Get up here now! Get your ass up here now!" I went like, "Gunny, I ain't coming up there unless I get my fucking Gerber. Then I'll come up." And I did. I crawled around until I found it, and then I crawled out.
A knife. When you loaded the pistol the second time, did you have an opportunity to shoot those bullets off as well?
Yeah,
So the NBA are just all around, just right there.
but I don't see. I missed the part of it after I got hit, and after I got hit up here, and I went down face first. I wasn't seeing anything. I don't really have a time on that. But the NVA, they stayed with us. They stayed with us right close to hugging our lines. They were going to medevac me. They put me on a chopper on a 34, and seems like it got about 10 feet off the ground, and they shot the rotors, and it just went boom, hit the ground like with a big jarring bump. And then I had to stand. I stood lines. I had to stand for a night defensive position because the NVA was still really squeezing us. So I had to go out. They stuck me with some new guy to go out and stand lines.
This is after they had attempted to medevac you. You couldn't be medevaced, and now you have to stand guard.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with my right hand. My left one was a problem. Uh, my eyesight just stopped bleeding up here, so my eyesight was okay. They stuck me in a hole with this new guy, and they passed the word down. If you are 100% sure that you have somebody out there, if you have somebody movement out there, meaning the NVA, throw a grenade and fire a magazine automatic out there and see what happens. So we waited and waited, nothing much happened, and then all of a sudden we started hearing this movement right out in front of us and not that far away. And well, they said to throw a grenade and shoot it up. So I told this guy next to me had a grenade, and I said, pull a pin and hand it to me. And he says, I can throw it. And I said, just shut the F up and hand me the grenade. I thought he'd drop it or something. He'd be nervous and he'd drop it right in the hole with us. I didn't want that to happen. So he pulled a pin and he gave it to me, and I was able to toss it over. And then we fired a magazine automatic out there.
Were there NBA out there?
Yeah. There was four, two women and two men, all with AKs. The two guys were dead. One woman was dead. The other woman was screeching, and I'm sure she wasn't saying nice things about me or anybody else. And just screeching. And I shot her twice in the heart just to shut her up. As the gunnery sergeant comes up and he goes, "Marine, you're going to jail." And I says, "Oh no, don't. What do you mean I'm going to jail?" He said, "You just shot a prisoner." And I said, "The last word that I got was no quarter. Do you know what no quarter is?" Yeah, no quarter. And I said, that's the last word I got. If the word was passed down, it never got to me. So I'm not interested in this. You're going to jail. You
How
know,
much time went from, you're crossing this rice paddy, if I remember right, and the NVA begin to open fire on you, you're pinned down. So from that to what you just described, where you've got this woman who's screaming and you take her out, is that 12 hours, 15 hours, something like that?
let's see. We got hit late morning. Maybe I couldn't say exactly, but like 15 or 12 sounds about right. They flew me out medevac the next day when our CO said, "Get out of here, get on a medevac chopper. I don't want to see any more of you."
Why did he say that? Did he say that because you were wounded and needed to get out, or was he upset with
Because he
you?
thought that I squeezed off some lady NVA
Okay.
that I knew it was prisoner taken time or something, but she was so shot up anyway. She wasn't going to be going anyplace. And why stick her in a medevac chopper to go to some intelligence guy and leave a wounded Marine off the chopper because she's gonna sit in his place? I don't think so. That didn't make any sense to me. But when I got to the medevac the next day, they shot me right into Penang and patched me up. And the doctor came around, or nurse, or I just looked upon them as doctors and nurses. I didn't even think of them in terms of uh, corpsmen. But they stuck me, they medevaced me into Da Nang. They came around to talk to me that afternoon, and they said, "You'll be ready in the morning. We're flying you to Tachikawa, then on to Yosuka in the morning."
In
And
Japan.
I
Yeah.
just started crying.
Why'd you start crying?
Couldn't believe it. I thought they were just going to send me back to the usual stuff.
Wow.
Lucky, thinking I was lucky. How lucky did I? I don't think I should have been, except for my teeth, medevac. I don't really think I was medevac. They did, obviously, because they turned me around pretty fast to get me back. But yeah, I never expected. I expected Cameron Bay or something. I never expected anybody to say I was going to Japan. You know, that was
How long were you in Japan before they sent you back to Ecuador?
3 weeks. They had me working at the in Japan. They kept me in the hospital for like a week maybe, and then the rest of it was dental. And they had me working. They gave me a job at the brig to guard the sailors and naughty Marines when they had to go to legal, they had to go to sick call, they had to do whatever. So I'd go with the prisoners and walk them to their destinations.
What are the main memories you have of the time in the hospital there in Japan?
Maine, seeing some horrifically damaged Marines, or could have been corpsmen, over at the side of our ward where they were just, on just completely in bandages or whatever.
When you were out in the field and you're experiencing these combat situations, did you have Navy corpsmen with you?
Yes. On Union 2, we had three corpsmen KIA.
What memories do you have of the corpsmen who were out there with you?
They'd come right away. There'd be no hesitation. One thing I found smart was that they'd always go around before we knew pretty much when we were going to hit it. And they'd go around and said, look it, don't yell for a corpsman. What do you mean? Don't yell for a corpsman. My name's Bill. Yell, hey, Bill, I need you over here. Hey, Bob. So never use the word corpsman ever because the NVA will be on you so fast. And I learned that. I used to like, we were on some, we spent a lot of time on this mountain called Nui Laksan down the end of the Quezon Valley. And the corpsmen, like a couple of corpsmen, used to go down the hill with a squad for security. And they'd work on the villagers and help the villagers and give them shots and all of that kind of stuff. So I always enjoyed going going down the hill with the corpsmen to do that stuff.
So you're injured, you're medevaced, and then after about 3 weeks, you go back to I-Corps. Do you just go right back out into the field then from there?
Pretty much, it had been quiet. It had been quiet out in the Quezon Valley around 51 and stuff. It had been quiet. So I essentially went back and then went back to my went back to my well, my company, but they gave me a team again. I didn't really want a team. I didn't like the responsibility. They gave me a team again. And everybody wanted to hear all about telling stories all about Japan and about all of this other kind of stuff. So we didn't really hit anything then for like pretty much the entire, a lot of July and August, where we'd still do a lot of patrolling and stuff. Never really hit anything significant. And I hate to say that when you might have gotten in a insignificant fight, you got three guys killed or something like that. That just doesn't sound right to say insignificant. Uh, Insignificant numerically, uh, looking at the entire numbers game countrywide. You know,
You said a few minutes ago that that you had experienced other close calls. I mean, during Union 2, you have this. I mean, it sounds like a death-defying experience where the NBA are all around, and you're talking about hand-to-hand combat with entrenching tools. So I think that's about as close as you can get, close call. But there were others.
one of the things I disliked the most was I hated when they said, when they passed word down, no quarter. I hated that. And I hated fixed bayonets. It gave me the creeps. Never liked it. Never, never liked it. You know, uh, the worst was probably hand to hand combat, where you're standing right next to a guy, you can smell him and everything.
And you experienced that yourself.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. But we were usually bigger. We were usually bigger than the NVA, though. You found some bigger NVA, but not as a rule. They were pretty much smaller. We'd pass other companies on the trail. They're going one way, we're going the other way, and everybody starts shooting the shit. And about like, hey, we got a couple big guys down the road here. We think they're Chinese. They're at least like 6'2" or something like that. And they pass word back and forth like that. You
You mean
know,
bodies?
yeah,
Their
dead,
bodies.
killed. That's how they measured them.
Um, so I mean, this question is a prying question, but my motivation isn't to pry. It's to, I don't know how to just try to get into your experience. Hand to hand, I don't know how many hand-to-hand fights you had, but whichever one you were just referring to, how did that unfold? Is it just you're going down a trail and all of a sudden an NVA is there and boom, or he attacks you, or
On
how did that
it was
unfold?
Union 2. We had walked into this ambush, and we were right up by the first platoon was right up by the head of the ambush. So we had people firing it from both sides and from the front. Um, they tried to come out of the tree line and stuff a couple times to get to us, but they couldn't get to us. Then finally, like the third time, they got to us. And then what are you going to do? You stand up and you know start like I had a pistol. Most guys, the entrenching tool was a popular weapon.
Yeah.
Um, Knives, everybody's parents were sending them like a Goodwill package from mom and dad, like another 45 pistol or a Luger or whatever. The parents would send you all these weapons and stuff, keep their keep their boys safe, you know, shotguns. Uh, but I think more when I got in and on Union 2, it was more up close because I was up close to within if I took a big giant step forward, I could touch these guys, but other guys didn't have a pistol like I did. Thank my lucky stars for that. And they were using entrenching tools, knives, whatever they could, whatever they could. Um, a second time was there was only two times. Union 2 was the first time. The second time was Swift. So we were on the we were at 51, um, but there was only two platoons. One of the platoons was someplace else, and I have no idea where. But so we were only two platoons, and word came down in the early afternoon that they wanted us to proceed to this village and show the flag because they were having elections the next day. And they weren't national elections, so maybe they were provincial or something else. Uh, but we went out and we didn't take any sniper fire. We usually always took sniper fire, sometimes good, sometimes bad. Um, and we settled in to a defensive perimeter for the night. Uh, Nothing had been happening for so long that I don't think anybody slacked. But some of us might have not dug our holes quite as deep as we ordinarily might have. And about 4 o'clock or something like that, they start up with the whistles and the bugles. That's another thing that drove me insane. That made my skin crawl. They started blowing these whistles and then their little trumpets and everything like that, which is signals for different elements to move here, move there, that kind of that. And then the next thing you know, we must have had two platoons with less than 100 guys, less than 100 guys. And all of a sudden, like they just swarmed us, just swarmed us. They came out of, they just came out of the woods and just like ran right through us, like in one side out the other, and then we started up with the hand again, hand to hand again. We got our company commander was killed right at the start. Um,
And at this time, you're using your pistols again?
no, they took my pistol away from me after Union 2. So I felt kind of naked without that, even though I didn't use it. When I needed it, it really came through in the clutch. Um, yeah, so I just had my 16, uh, my 40, not 45, and my two knives, my Gerber and my K-bar, Marine combat knife. Um, and then they were just all around us, all around us. They called for Mike Company to come off of 51. This was only like a mile and a half away or something. They were right in our backyard. And Mike came up in the minute or the second they tied into our lines, they were overrun and they were assaulted, surrounded, and partially overrun too. Now, this stuff went on for a long time until I think a couple of companies from 3-5, I think they dropped Mike and Kilo from 3-5. And then they really fell into it too. Mike company was Father Capodanno was the Mary Knoll missionary from New York who got killed, and he got killed with Mike company. Back talking casualties, when we're on Union 2, we got, when I read it in some books, our casualties from Delta, it just says like 20 some. I think we were higher than that. So they were counting incorrectly sometimes the other way, not to let people know maybe how many people were really getting hit. But Fox 25, they had like 40 KIA. And that's a whole bunch of guys when you're dealing with a 135 man company. You're losing, you're losing that many people, you know. Um, and then we still weren't separated. We couldn't separate from them. They were so close. We finally
The NVA,
separated.
you're intermingled. The Marines and the NVA are all intermingled.
There was some separation, but not much.
Okay.
When Mike and Kilo came in, there was a little separation, but it still wasn't enough. You're not going to be able to go and drop 500-pound bombs between us because there's no room to squeeze it in there. But that was, yeah, and that kept up. And I think the other companies who were in it too, there was a number of companies. I know Kilo and Mike, they were using, bayonets and stuff like that.
Now
So
through this fight for you, was your M16 all you needed?
was it all I needed?
Yeah. What did your M16 get you through this fight, or did you have to rely on other weapons that you carried?
I used this and other stuff, other stuff. Basically, just knives. I got my e-tool out. I don't know if I can't recall if I ever got to use it. That was almost better than a bayonet, though. You know,
Mm.
because it's so sharp and it's on like a baseball bat.
Did you complete your 13-month tour?
No, no, I was about 7 months or so.
What happened?
After after Swift, I got taken out to the U.S. Naval Hospital in Yokosuka again. I
Were
was
you
having
wounded again?
such,
You were
pardon me.
wounded again? You were wounded again during Swift?
Supposedly, I don't have two wounds on my, I don't have two Purple Hearts on my records. When the NVA was attacking us on Swift, they were firing mortars in, they were firing rockets in. And this is when their own guys are in there trying to kill us. They didn't care. They just they wanted to wipe us out. And if they hit their own guys, say la vie.
So were you wounded during Swift then? This fight you've been describing?
They called it a wound, but it's never been put on my record. And I was never cared enough to go chase them around and to chase down other people to verify. It wasn't of that great a consequence to me.
But you were medevaced a second time?
Yeah, basically head stuff. I had because they were dropping all these stuff on us from rockets to mortars to everything, and I was like dazed and confused.
Oh, okay.
Uh,
Yeah. Yeah.
uh,
Yeah.
I couldn't remember anything. I couldn't headaches, migraines. When we headed for boot camp, we left Worcester, Mass. Myself, a guy named Jerry Pertano from Worcester, and seven guys from Fall River. I remembered pretty much the names of the guys from Fall River. Mike McMahon, Billy Tobel, um, Mike Medeiros, Carlos Kotashi, you know. Um, my parents picked me up at the airport in Boston at Logan, and they didn't recognize me when I got off of the plane. They didn't recognize me because I had some awards and stuff like that. And we get in the car and we're going to head down the Mass Pike to. We're still living down on the beef cattle farm down in North Brookfield. So we're going to go there, and we driving along, and there's a Howard Johnson's, and my father says, "Oh, let's stop for a cheeseburger." And I said, "That's okay, Dad. I don't really want a cheeseburger." Ah, come on. But then my mother says, "Oh, come on, let's have a cheeseburger, French fries." I said, "Okay." So we go in, we had a cheeseburger and French fries, and we get back in the car and driving along. And WBC radio comes on. This is like the 17th or 18th of December. The latest death, the latest combat death in Vietnam by a Massachusetts resident was Michael Medeiros of Fall River, Massachusetts. Here I am. I'm headed home for Christmas, and Mike's headed home, but it's in a box.